happening, party people? What's happening? I'm your host with the most, Mr. Ron, and welcome to, yes, another episode of 40 Years of Hip Hop, where we review 1,000 songs over the span of 40 years from 1979 to 2019. And party people, by Feed Spot standards, we are ranked 40th in the top 50 hip hop podcasts on the web. And that's just great living indeed. And we're gonna keep up climbing that list, that's for sure. And today, party people, we will be reviewing Linguistics by Shy360 from the album Chapters, okay, which was released in 1999 and 2012, I believe. We will clarify that. And of course, we got Shy60 with us right there. How you doing, my man?
Pretty good, Ron. Thanks for having me.
All right. Awesome. Again, I think I told you we were going to have you last year, because I had the song ready. So, party people, so again, I chose this song because Shy360 is a friend of mine, okay, even though we lost touch a little bit in the last decade or so. However, when you were doing the song, I saw you almost every day or every other day.
You saw the whole thing manifest. You saw
from the beginning. From the beginning.
In fact.
Yeah. And so it was clear when I started this project, it was clear that you were going to be a part of this, okay? Because at that point in my life, I knew a lot of people that rap, okay, that were really into hip hop, including me, but you went above and beyond. You decided to say, you know what? I'm dropping everything and I'm focusing on the hip hop shit. Yeah. For me, I would say that was the biggest. I was like, okay, enough respect. This guy is the shit, this move totally impressed me, by the way. I was a little starstruck even. Again, because at that time you were in university.
Yeah.
You had a job, a very a job that you could grow into, right?
Yeah.
And you decided to say, you know what? I'm doing hip hop, and for me, highest, level of respect, to say that, because I didn't even. I was really into hip hop, and I was like, you know what? I took the somewhat safe route, and said, you know what? I'll stick with school, and wow, that was just amazing from my point of view. So first, again, what made you do that jump? I really want to know.
Oh wow, this is such a good question.
Yeah.
What made me do that jump? Honestly, so there's a backstory, because when I moved to Montreal as a kid, I didn't speak English. It was 1989, immigrant. I get here, I spoke a little bit of French from my parents, but I didn't speak English. And to me, it was I remember the first cassette my dad got me at Walmart, and it was the soundtrack. No, it was a cassette. It was Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Oh, which album though? Which album?
I'm the DJ. He's the rapper.
Oh yeah. Bubblegum rap, but great album nonetheless. DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah. It was.
DJ Jazzy Jeff, one of the best DJs.
And it wasn't the first time I heard hip hop. I was I got to school, there was parties, and I was like, I really like this stuff. And then I went to see the soundtrack. No, not the soundtrack. I went to see the movie Juice. For sure. Classic. Okay. And it was over. I bought the CD at HMV, rest in peace HMV. But I bought the CD, and the first song, and fucking Eric being right, and I'm like, what is this? And I hear Rakim rhyme, and I was done. I was trying to catch every word, and was multi-syllable rap and the cadence and everything. I was like, oh my God, I have goosebumps telling you the story. This is how how important this was for me in my life as a kid, just writing it down, looking at a dictionary. This is pre iPads, right? Like
of
I had
course.
a physical dictionary trying to figure out the words. So really loved it. And then, you know, I got into it, but people were like, you know, you're really good. You should continue, really good. And you were one of them. You're, you know, like, I remember, like, we spent nights freestyling. I wouldn't stop.
Dude,
like, I'm gonna give you a headache.
You would freestyle from home, going to the club, back from the club, going back home.
And I was just loving it. But to be honest and to be completely transparent, I felt like an imposter. You know, it wasn't, you know, it's African American culture, and I felt like, you know, what is this Middle Eastern kid going to do? But I never rapped about, you know, there was some rappers that were trying to be, trying to be down. Yeah. But my content was always about me. It was always personal. It was about and learning from some of the greats, learning from Rakim and Nas, and learning from Big Daddy Kane, and learning from Public Enemy, and learning from Dilla. So, like, I was like, okay, what are they're talking about? Their personal and their community and their people's struggle. And this is what I was talking about. What is it to be an immigrant in Montreal? You know, the main song off the album is talking about an immigrant coming to Montreal. So when did I take the dive is when I decided, I was like, you know, I'm going to record a single. And this was my first single ever. But I recorded at least 20 songs before I made this one official that nobody's ever heard. They're horrible. And I recorded them, I don't know if you remember, but the old school headphones and the cassette tapes, you could record into the headphone.
Of course, I remember that.
We didn't have the means to pay for a freaking studio at $40 an hour. We didn't have that kind of dough. We didn't come from this family. So started recording, and then when I met the producer, and then more and more people just started like really supporting it. And like you said, I was working 9 to 5, then I was going to school from 6 to 9. And then I would go to like all these open mic nights. And it was like Montreal was like a nice underground scene. Shades of Culture and like Obscure Disorder and like all these, like, you know, many people in the scene, like great producers like Ray Sans Pression, just like it was a good scene, you know. And I was always trying to get on stage. It wasn't easy. Not a lot of people gave me love because I wasn't part of the I didn't fit the heuristics. So this pushed me to, like, you know, what's an immigrant with, like, now speaks 3 languages and learning a 4th one and coming from a diverse background. To me, it was, how do I play with words? So I made a song, Linguistiks, and then I decided I'm gonna press this on vinyl. So it was like a first attempt, and then I got distribution through Landspeed. And these were the same people distributing like Gangstar. At the time.
But I remember, I seem to have recalled that during that time, I think maybe, could it be that the record was not pressed in Montreal? Because I remember, he said, okay, I'm going to get my single, okay? And you came out with like a stack of Linguistiks. And this impressed me even more. It's like, yo, he has his freaking vinyl. You know, and you played it, and I remember it was there was like the normal, the radio edit, there was the instrumental, and then it was the B-side.
I listen, I did the CDs first, you know, and then a lot of people, I would go to these parties and I see these DJs, and like nobody would fuck with CDs back then. Like the culture was vinyl. And I was like, I loved, like, hip hop is my second love. Like for real to this day. So I was like, I have to make a vinyl. So it was pressed in Montreal, but to your point, I drove to Boston, I drove to New York, and I hustled and I shopped it, and I went to these vinyl distributors that never heard of me. I was like, you please play, because I sent it to them by mail, but I never got a response. It takes months. I was like, I'm just gonna drive. I'm just gonna hustle. So I drove, and I kept knocking on until they listened to it, and then somebody picked it up eventually, and Landspeed distributed it. And you know what's crazy? I sold about almost 3,000 at the time. It's considered like pretty good for an independent underground artist.
Okay.
But it's sold in Korea, in Japan, in the US,
Ah,
in the Ukraine, in the Czech Republic, in
yeah.
Turkey. It's just madness. And and at the time I only had an email. I remember like I had a Hotmail address.
Yeah.
And I remember getting like emails from different people all over the world. So it was and that's when I said like, okay, there's a potential here to do something really
Yeah.
cool. And then I moved back. I left Montreal, went back to
Yeah.
Israel, and I
Yeah.
was unemployed for a long time. I couldn't find a job, and I was like, I had an album ready, and I didn't know how to release it, what to do, and I connected with a few people, and then we pressed the whole album on CD at the time, not on vinyl,
Okay.
and that's when
Okay.
things
Okay.
completely took off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's good. That's great, man. That's a great. Okay. So, so you know about like we have like different sections. So we're gonna jump to the originality section.
yeah,
And again, like I say, from my point of view, just because you're original doesn't mean that you're dope, and you could be super dope and not be original. Okay.
100%, 100%.
So the way that I see this track, again, I think for originality, I give it a 3.5 on 5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, I think that it's an above average track. Okay. Originality wise, mainly for the vocals. Okay. Because I believe that I'm a huge fan of scratching. Who did the scratches, man? Those scratches are ill.
Mad Scientist.
Yo!
Yeah, the DJ from Montreal also.
Ill.
It's really ill.
The beat was nice. I like the piano. Like I really feel that jazzy vibe. So we're gonna get into production about that. So again, tell me a little bit about the originality side of this track.
So I'm surprised you gave it a 3.5. I would give it a 2.5.
Oh,
in originality.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. For the track itself, I think the album I would give it a lot more because nobody was making any kind of content like that.
For sure.
But for this track, it was really to me like the classic 3-verse, 3-hook, scratch, boom bap, MPC, organic sound, SSL. Everything was analog. It was the sound of the 90s. So
it was.
Time and space, to me, it was just average in originality. I'm usually hard on myself, but I think it was like maybe a 2.53 maybe, but
Okay. No,
16 bars, rhymes, cuts, dope beats, that's like as a package. Now, I'm not diving into lyrics and stuff like that. The lyrics are maybe more original than what everybody else was rapping about. But as a concept of a track, as a single, it was. I don't find it to be so original. Till this day, I just find it to be a classic because people still write me about this song.
Of course.
22 years later.
That's fantastic, man. That's awesome. That is great. So yes, like I said, courtesy of Discog, I give it a 3.5. And so again, I think you are a little harsh on yourself, 2.5. I'm like, dude. Okay, so let's jump to delivery, which stands for lyrics and flow. For me, per se, I went with a 4 on 5. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think that these are some of the best lyrics I've heard you spit. Now, of course, there's a lot of stuff that you have that's in Hebrew, but I didn't understand the words, but you could understand tone and body language when you watch the videos. But I find like Linguistics, maybe I was still in starstruck a little bit around all that time. But if you break it down, like the lyrics are solid, and me, I really love the second verse in total. And there's one line, okay, now I would like for you to go into detail. It's when you say, I transform barriers and cultural norms, okay? And for me, the way I saw it, so we hung out together. So I was like, okay, so here's this kid from Israel. Okay. When I met you, he was a little bit of a Gino, you know. He's falling deeply into hip hop. You know, there was like a little bit of a mix and match of everywhere, until I find that you basically discovered your true identity, you know, and affirmed yourself, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me about those lines, man.
First of all, so Ron, the way you expressed it now, I don't think I've ever thought about it this way, but you really nailed it. There was a personal search for a long time, because, you know, when I moved here, I was looking for my place.
Of course.
In high school, and, you know, I went to a public school, so I had to go through a while.
Dude, we went to the same high school, man.
And I was kicked out of Secondaire 4, so I joined Chamedy High.
Okay.
But for 4 years, I was in another high school, and, you know, people laughed at me. They called me J-scum. They called me all kinds of anti-Semitic terms that we're not going to say on air now.
Yeah, of course not.
But through hip hop, I did find a lot of things, and then for a while, I had a period in my life for about a year, and I have pictures to show it, where I was trying also to fit the style in terms of dressing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. Like I look back and I'm like, corny. Like it just looked funny. So it took me time to adjust. To adjust, and like you said, to affirm myself and to find myself. And when I started pressing, so I was diving more and more into hip hop and understanding that it's not what you wear, it's not how you talk. I don't speak like, yo, know what I'm saying, son? I don't speak like that because I'm not from Staten Island. I don't speak like that. I don't speak a certain slang because I am from Montreal. I'm an immigrant from Montreal. I speak how I speak, and I rhyme how I rhyme. And that takes time for many artists. And you can tell artists who have affirmed themselves, like, this is who I am, and evolve, versus artists who are trying to do something. It's visible, okay? And I had that phase. So when I speak about, back to your question about the line, I transform barriers and cultural norms, right? What's the feedback? They want to test it like a piece at ease back. We got rhymes to break your kneecaps. I always felt like I represented something that nobody did. There was
definitely.
There was like one or two Jewish rappers like MC Search. You know, but I was like repping our culture. I was trying to use music as a vehicle to educate, you know, and I still do, because there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of, you know, whatever people get from whatever sources of news. So I was trying to bring another story, like what is a North African Arab Jewish Israeli? What is that?
You tell me. What? I think it's Shy 360 there, you know?
So that means that I transform barriers and cultural norm. The people's cultural norm of what a Jewish kid is what they see on Seinfeld or Woody Allen or whatever on their, you know, American Jewish. Like people think like bagels and cream cheese is a Jewish thing. We don't have that, right? I didn't grow up with that. I have no idea. For me, hummus is like it's such a difference. So we transform that through music, and I talk about it in my music. And when people really, for the real heads who really listen and stuff like that, like you break down, you take lyrics, you break it down, no matter who you listen to. You and I used to talk about songs and break down like one line for an hour and talk about songs, like, right? But most people don't do that. But it doesn't matter. As if I reach one person, or even just two people, and they share that information, I won. It's better than any plaque. It's better than anything. So I transform all these barriers, because stereotypes are barriers to knowledge.
Yes, they are.
Right? If you don't go and seek information, you just put a barrier for yourself.
It's true.
If you seek information, if you see an article on Facebook, that article was sent for you, targeted at you, because they know what you believe in. So you're not exposed to another half, right? So you might have just one piece of information. So that's your own barrier. If you don't break that, then you stay ignorant.
Yeah, you're right. You're
So
right.
there was a lot behind that line.
Ah, that's fantastic. It's funny because see the way I saw it, and this is why I wanted you to say it first. The
Yeah.
way that I saw it, when you say that I transform barriers and cultural norm, I see it as I am going to transform hip hop culture. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The fact that again, one, you're from Montreal, you know, you're Israeli. Not only that, but I remember at some point you freestyle in English, French,
French and Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Yeah.
So these were all from the way I said, these are all new aspects of hip hop.
I'm gonna give you a scoop. Nobody
Go
knows.
ahead, my man.
First time live. There's an unreleased Linguistiks remix in 3 languages.
What?
Sitting in my hard drive from 1999. Never released.
You have to release it, man. You have to release it. You have to release it.
The French verse is really whack. But yeah, for you to think that, first of all, it's thank you for thinking that, but I never ever thought, and I still don't, that I transform hip hop, because hip hop transformed me.
Could it be possible that it could go both ways?
It could be.
Because again, we spoke again about the whole, like Eminem thing and Lord Jamal, and for me per se, hip hop is a culture. Yes, it is Afro-American, Black from the US.
But it's become much more than that.
Oh yeah, well, now I find now hip hop is so pop. It's so mainstream that for me, it's my private opinion, I think that hip hop lost a few steps in quality, where it got maybe more in, I would say, presence. Okay, now hip hop is influencing other genres. Again, now when you're listening to the radio right now, it's like a mashup of hip hop and something else.
Oh yeah, it's been like that for a while now.
For almost like a decade.
Pop is hip hop.
Yeah. Yes.
So hip hop. At some point, hip hop went pop, but today pop is hip hop.
Yeah.
And you're right. It lost a lot of its quality.
Yeah.
But that's with everything. There's still quality there. It's just harder to find. It's like when when I want really good sushi, am I going to go to, I don't want to say the name to shit on any restaurants in Montreal, or am I going to go and get really good sushi?
Exactly.
I can play Paid in Full today and it's still dope.
Yes.
I can't play, I hate this example, but, like Ja Rule, I can't play, and it's classic. It's not. It was, for those 6 months, it was dope and it was banging in the club.
Yeah, it was a club banger. Yeah.
I can play My Steez today and it's still banging. I can play The Mystery of Chess Boxing and it's still there is no arguing about quality. This quality is timeless. It's like a piece of art. You can buy a frame at IKEA and hang it in your bedroom. It's gonna look nice for 6 months.
Yeah.
You can get a Rembrandt or some other shit and be like, your great grandkids will appreciate it.
Exactly.
So I transform. I didn't see I could transform hip hop. Yes, hip hop transformed so much, but I saw hip hop as a vehicle that transformed me, and I can transform others. So when I brought hip hop culture into Israel,
that's another chapter. That's
so
super
that helped transform a lot of things. As one of the architects, a lot of people that are still making, and some of the number one artists today are people who grew up listening to my music. So to me, I transform barriers and cultural norms. You understand? It's manifested fantastic. 20 years later.
That's fantastic, man. That is fantastic. All right. So now let's talk about a little bit of production, beat, mixing. So I gave it a 3.75. Okay. I was like, should I go on the 4? I thought it was a 3.75, which is from my point of view, which is very good. The scratching, okay, the way that it's blended, with the riff, with the piano,
Yeah.
And so you got to tell me about the whole process. You know, like, did you pick up your samples? Because back in the day, a lot of people that got labeled as producers, they were mainly acted as sound engineers. What I mean by that is a lot of rappers would come, okay, this is the sample, I want you to cut it here. This is the type of beat that I want. This is the bass line. And the guy, you know, the sound engineer, who sometimes they would get the credit as the producer, would put it together, you know? So again, tell me about the process of the instrumental part of Linguistiks.
A lot of the album was done with AX, the architect, and the way we worked together, like in the beginning, we were just finding our groove, but the way we worked together, I had a vision going back to transform barriers and cultural norms. Mm-hmm. I wanted to bring sound of, like, you know, if Primo sampled Coltrane and James Brown, I wanted to sample the Israeli versions,
the Israeli version of
old Jewish music or old North African music that I grew up with. So I found a lot of these samples in my dad's garage, and I'll go through them and listen to them like, oh, this is so good. How do I don't even know how to sample it. And working with him, so he had the MPC, he worked some magic on the MPC, and I just sat, we would sit for like 7-8 hours sometimes straight and just like work on a beat. So I acted more as the kind of a visionary for the canvas.
Good.
He had massive input into, like, he would take the sample, the way he chopped it, and he would, like, you know, take one note, and just the swing on the drums. He did all of that. I can't take credit for that. So I came with, like, the kind of, like, hey, this is the kind of the sonic image that I'm looking for. Now, when it came to the rest, that was you know, laid out by, hey, here's what I want. So I would tell the DJ, I want to scratch this exact line at this point, and I would sing it to him, you know, and then he would scratch it, and we keep tweaking it and fixing it and stuff like that. He did an amazing job, but for me, it was like lyrics. To me, the cuts are part of the lyrics. That's what I want to say, but I wanted to use, you know, like some of the, you know, I have Rakim in there and stuff like that. I just used like samples of stuff that to me was classic and so ingrained and marked me so much, right?
It's true.
So, you know, there's a lot of classics in the scratching. Hebrew, like I had Reza there, and like just a bunch of stuff that put together. So I sang it to him. I'm like, this is what I want. I want to hear the word Hebrew. I want to hear, like, there's so many things that are important, because Shai, S-H-I, Supreme Hebrew Intellect. So I was trying to bring in some supreme rhymes with my Hebrew identity and intellectual stimulation. That's what it was about, right?
Wow.
So, and that was before the 360. It was Shai. It was like Linguistiks was from Shai. It wasn't from Shai 360, right? So it was. So I was involved in that, and I think in terms of production, I would actually give it a 4.
Okay.
Just because, just watching the process and the sound of the MPC, and that was the only album that was fully analog. We recorded on Tascam 2-inch tapes.
Oh man, wow.
Tapes. I still have the original DATs.
The DATs.
There was no CD. There was nothing. There was no like computer and punching the lyrics and fixing. None of that.
Wow.
It was, you do your take or you don't do your take. You can't cut the tape. Like, get your take right. You know? And someone else that deserves credit was where I recorded it. I mean, they overcharged me and they screwed me, the owner of the studio. But the engineer that worked for them was a great dude and very talented sound engineer.
Yeah. Oh. I sorry to cut you off, but I feel that sound engineers are often overlooked. You know.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Again, you know, we're Tribe Called Quest fans, and shout out to tip when it goes, Bob Powers, you're there? Yeah. You know, the tribe engineers. So that's cool. I think that I always thought that was like a cool shout out, you know.
It is.
No one talks about the sound engineers, man.
No.
And sometimes
you know who talks the most about his sound engineer all the time?
The guy from the Buffalo guys there.
Jay-Z.
Oh, see, yeah, it's
Guru.
true.
All the time.
It's true.
All the time.
It's true.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah,
you know?
It's true.
Because my last 2 albums, no, my last 3 albums, I was a sound engineer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I learned, you know, sound and you know, frequencies and mixing vocals and drums and stuff like that from someone really that's been in the game and did like huge albums. So I spent, you know, 2 months with him every day for 10 hours. So I learned a couple of things. No, I'm not an amazing sound engineer, but I wanted to mix my own shit, mix and master.
That's awesome.
So my last 3 albums are mixed and mastered by me.
So Baba Laziz, right? That's what that was.
Yeah.
Awesome,
mixed and mastered, everything. Shalom Haters, my last album, Elevate, and and there's even a few albums that I produced because I had a label at some point. So I was doing some production, but all of the sound engineering.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. So that means like, again, so you basically like in this hip hop game, you actually grew not only as an MC, but as a, you know, behind the scene guys. That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome. So I have a segment, you know, in the show, and again, it's gonna be a little. You can't think about it too much, right?
I won't. Yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
So we have a segment called Top 5, and right up from the bat, who's your top 5 and why?
Jay-Z.
Okay.
Why? I think it's just the full package. I think even at 50, he wrapped circles around a lot of these guys. I think he had some you know, some commercial pitfalls and stuff, but I think it was a calculated move, right? He's not a businessman, he's a businessman, right?
Yeah.
So I think what he's giving back to hip hop today, to a lot of the young generation, is massive. So just overall, this flow, lyrics, delivery, the stuff he says is so intricate. The last album, 444, which was so personal and like so surprising from him. So that, you know, second is Biggie.
Of course.
Simply, I mean, do I even need to explain? Can anybody flow better on anything? Like, you know, someone who can flow in like unbelievable and like kick in the door, and then the double time with Bone Thugs and harmony and like just any beat, anything, right? So he's got that jazzy cadence.
Yeah, true that.
You know, number 3, oof, that's a tough one. Probably Nas. Although, you know, the projects that he released, it was underwhelming for me.
In 2020?
In the last 10 years even.
Oh, okay,
But his pen, nobody can touch him.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
And number 3 is a big, for me, is a tough one. Number 4, I would say, and this might surprise you, but I think he's one of the most underrated MCs ever, is Black Thought.
Oh, come on, man.
He's so underrated.
I know.
Like
I know.
the streams of thought, like just the last things he did. I was like,
I totally agree.
I can listen to him for hours.
But not only that, longevity, dude. He's been doing this since the early 90s.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
him, Nas, Jay-Z, they're all like.
Did you hear the Funk Flex freestyle?
Hey, bro, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. 10
like
minutes.
Nobody can touch him. I think he's phenomenal. I like his content too. Is just, you know, okay, his flow is the same flow for years, but I don't care. I like listening to him.
Yeah, me too.
He's dope.
Me too.
Number 5, I don't even know. It's such a toss-up between so many. You know, I could probably throw Andre 3000 in there.
Okay.
Which is so impressive.
I feel you.
You know, Guru.
Yes. It's gotta be the voice.
King of monotone.
Yeah.
I wish there was some of the newer artists, but like if I had to really pick from all my number fives, is definitely Kendrick.
Oh, okay. I see it.
Yeah.
I see.
So there's a couple of toss-up, but like I think Kendrick needs to release more music.
Yes.
But his mixtapes, like Section 80, you can't tell. He's such an OG in like this time. Like he's
I know.
Like people in his generation, he's just such an
anomaly. You would have sworn like he's been around for like 20 years. So I believe you had told me that you had a Kendrick Lamar story when you were shopping around for one of your albums in New York, and he was, I think, like before you presenting Section 80. Could that be something like that?
That's at South by Southwest.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah, I had 2 South by Southwest experiences, and it's interesting. One was as like the first Israeli hip hop artist to go there.
Wow.
And when I say go there, a lot of artists go to South by Southwest. I'm talking about an official showcase.
Exactly.
None of that bullshit. Oh, I'm in South by Southwest. Here's my Instagram. Like my name was on the ballots.
Yeah. Wow.
It was mind blowing for me. This was at the peak of like Kendrick's, and I'm a hip hop head, and a lot of people knew Kendrick at the time, but like I saw him on stage, and I was on the same stage the next day, with a lot less people than him, obviously. But it's fucking Kendrick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on the same stage. It was that night that they had Kendrick, LL, Ice Cube. I watched the show, and then the next day it was indie artists, right? So it was a bunch of artists from all over the world, like an international showcase.
Nice.
Which was great. The second time I went to South by was actually I was living in Montreal already, and I was with the Canadian independent artist delegation. I was an official Canadian indie artist going to promote Baba Aziz. Yeah.
All right, my man.
Yeah.
All this good stuff, man. Good stuff. So of course we're gonna take a break just so we gotta pay some bills. A little bit of a Buzzsprout advertisement. So party people, before we get back into the review, at 40 Years of Hip Hop, we use Buzzsprout for our podcast. They get your show listed on every podcast platform available. We were able to get 10,000 downloads within a year as Buzzsprout members. You'll also be getting a great-looking podcast platform, an audio player that you can drop into other websites, even WordPress templates. You will also benefit from detailed analytics and tools to promote your episode, like audio video snippets of your podcast called sound bites. However, for me, my thing is that I get to generate a second revenue by talking about something that I'm passionate about. Think about it. You're a fan of something, try podcasting about it. It's easy, fun, and can generate a second revenue. Get started for free. No credit card required. Cancel anytime. No contract. Link below in our episode notes. So party people, Buzzsprout is the way to go. And now let's get back to the review. All right. So now we're at the point. It's relevance and longevity. Okay. Mm-hmm. So again, is this song still relevant? And was it able to stand the test of time? Okay. So this song, for me, okay, and it's going to be a little personal, but I think that for me, it represents facing adversity, okay? Because you were this kid, this guy that we saw every day, was a normal person, who has a job, who's going to school, struggling, running after girls, just an everyday guy, and you dropped an album. I was, and I remember when I listened to the album, after the intro chapters, what was the name of the
prologue? The intro.
Prologue.
Yeah.
It's just a big test. It's just, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done. Just the intro. I was like, the beat was on point. your emotions, you know, I could feel it, you know.
The intro was the last thing I recorded on this album, so I worked on the whole album. So I worked on the whole album for 2 years.
Interesting.
And then I had written this verse over the Dead President's beat originally. I recorded over it, Monster Beat. I recorded it, and you know, on a personal note, it's probably in my top 5 verses of all time. As an artist, like I look back at this verse and I'm like, wow, this is fire. Like it's just a crazy. But I had a body of work beforehand, and I was immersed, and I was just rapping every day for 5 years. 3-4 hours. So when I got to record this, it was a one take. It was all emotion. I had candles in the studio, I remember. So this was actually recorded in Tel Aviv. It was the last song. And it was the first time like we included like it was the last song, and it was recorded on Pro Tools. It was digital. So it was sonically, it was very different. And I had an issue. I was like, what do you mean? You don't have an SSL? You don't have a fucking analog thing? The guy was like, that's all I got, man. But he was like, that I still my homie till this day. He's a massive producer now in LA, actually. The guy who worked with me on this. He works with like Pooh Bear, and he did some production for Justin Bieber. Like he's involved in like a very big guy. He's a big producer. He's a brilliant pianist. But yeah, we did that song. It was the last song. And I was like, you know what? It was supposed to be the outro. And I was like, no. This just takes all the last 5 years and just says, hey, this is what this album is about.
And
it's all it says. Now remember, I was going through a lot of stuff with my health. I had like 4 major heart surgeries. Like I had to go through a lot of shit to get there. And I was like,
and we feel it, you know, it feels like, yo, I'm gonna get this no matter what, you know, adversity, you know.
Well said. That was exactly what I was feeling at the time. Like literally me against the world, like Tupac style. Like nothing was working for me.
I
have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose.
And you went at it. Also, again, you wanted something, you went for it. You no one could stop you. You know. So for me, this song, whenever I hear it, no matter what, it's always going to be a classic. Okay, no matter what. It's always, for me, when I hear that song, it's always going to be Shy in the legend.
The Acura legend, bro.
You know, just freestyling, you know, we're going to hit the clubs, you know, and just freestyling, cool, and it's just really great for days. Me.
Yeah.
Always be a classic, and this is why, again, and I know that it did make some noise in other countries. So for a point of relevance and longevity, I give it a 3 on 5. Okay. So that's the way I see it. What do you think about that?
Longevity, just watching my body of work, it's like a 4.5 on 5, because you know, I got a message on Instagram Friday about this song. This is how relevant this is. So there is so I'm gonna tell you a story and how crazy it evolved. There is a DJ in 1999 that wrote me an email, a Turkish aspiring hip-hop MC and DJ, okay? We'll get to his name in a second, and I'll tell you why. He was traveling, he was vinyl hunting, he was in the Czech Republic. He found my vinyl. He listened to it in stores, he loved it, he bought it. He sent me an email. He asked me to do a remix. He did a remix. There's a remix somewhere, I can send you the link, of Linguistiks with a Turkish rap verse, okay?
What?
Now, I don't know if you know anything about politics, but for a Jewish Israeli and a Muslim Turk to come together on a track, it's fucking magic. Okay?
Yeah. That's the beauty of music,
Fast forward, this guy he's like the Jay-Z of Turkey. He does like commercials for like Honda. He's one of the biggest artists in the history of the country. And we're still in touch. And my last album, Ultimate, right, was all his beats. Yes, and he's a massive. So I have a very big fan base in Turkey. And so I still get messages about Linguistiks because he did, it's one of his favorite songs and he was pushing it. And you know, in Germany, this is crazy because I used to do a lot of business in Germany and travel there. There's a massive Turkish community.
Oh, I did not know.
And I was in an Uber on the way to the airport. And this is me working, you know, I work in tech today, so I do very different things. So this is me with my laptop working, and I'm in the Uber, and the Uber driver is listening very low volume because he doesn't want to bother me, but he's playing Sagopa, which is the artist, featuring Shy 360. And I was like, what are you listening to? He's like, oh, he's a Turkish rapper. I'm like, put the volume up. And then my verse comes on. I'm like, who's this guy? He goes, oh, this Shy 360 is a rapper from Canada. And I'm like,
did you tell him it was you?
And I'm like, look at the picture on your phone because you can see on the cover, you see a picture of Sagopa and Shy. And he looks at it and he looks at me and he stops the Uber and he asks me to do a selfie.
No way.
It's just crazy in Munich. Like, it's so random, but like Sagopa Kashmir, like he's massive and his beats are phenomenal. So I did an entire album with his beats.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's massive, man. See, I did not get all of that information. You know,
no, it's hard. It's because it's more recent stuff. But we connected through Linguistiks. That's
awesome, man.
This is how Linguistics transforms barriers and cultural norms.
Yeah, definitely.
So that line manifested itself through my whole career, and this is why I think that song stands the like it's such a classic, because it is. It's like, it's just classic 90s boom bap hip hop. That's what it is. So for me, that was it's a classic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So of course, Impact. So now you tell me how the song. So of course, was this, because this song is from your first album?
Yeah.
Could it be the song that impacted your career the most?
100%.
Okay. How so?
100%, man. Because so pressing it on CD and then going further and pressing it on vinyl and then chopping it and then getting it distributed worldwide, you know what that does to an aspiring artist? It's like, oh my God, people like my music. People are singing. So I was like, okay, so this pushed me to make an album. And then I completed the album and the album did well. So this pushed me to be like, I need to do this full time. Like, people are really enjoying it. And I was like, okay. And then I moved back to this. I was like, people don't know enough. Like they see on MTV, they see hip hop, they don't know enough about the culture. So introducing the culture, so that pushed me to do more and more things every time. And somehow always people come back and tell me, yo, I love chapters, I love Linguistiks. No matter where I'm at in my career.
Yeah, they always come back to that.
They always come back. It's like, you know, chapters is my Illmatic.
Yeah, I believe so.
Chapters is my reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I truly believe so.
You know,
I truly believe so.
So it started with that song, and the reason for that song is that it's called Linguistiks is because this is someone who didn't speak the language, who had to learn English and drop a song on vinyl in his third language, which was foreign to him just 7 years before. I
know, man. Wow. Again, talk about, you know, facing adversity. You know?
Yeah. It was something I was always like, and this is for my mom, I was always like, anybody told me, oh, you can't do this, I was like, oh yeah?
I'll make sure to do it, yeah.
Watch.
Yeah.
Okay? So at least I'll try. If I fail, awesome, I learned something. I still win if I fail.
For sure.
I still win. You know, and I had an album which was a glorious failure. So it was.
Oh wait, so that album would have been considered as a failure?
No, I had another album.
Oh, okay.
Later on in 2009, which to me was a failure.
Oh.
But I learned from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. But again, I find like, and it's just in life in general, I think that a failure is not necessarily a failure. It all depends how you take it. You know, because
what do you do with it?
Exactly. A failure could be your biggest success, you know, or your lead to success. you know?
success, yeah, 100%.
That's awesome, man. That
Yeah.
is just, wow, that is just great, man. So, my man, I think like we pretty much covered all of the points, you know, for linguistics. And again, like since last year, I was like, I can't wait. You know, it's gonna be awesome, and we finally did it. And I'm really happy that we had you here. This is actually going to be released next Friday.
Nice.
You know,
okay.
I'll send you the link. So of course, this is the video is going to be actually on YouTube. You know,
Amazing.
our YouTube is not doing too great, but we don't care. You know, because we again at the end of the day, we know we have good content. The podcast is doing really well. And
Listen, Linguistiks on CD sold about 150, on vinyl 3,000, and then my album 100,000. So YouTube will grow, man. It will grow.
Whoa! So before we wrap things up, okay. So first of all, I want to know. Tell me a little bit about like how many albums do you have?
Oh wow, that's a good question. So my first album, full album, was Chapters. Then I released the first mixtape. It wasn't an official release, but I released the first mixtape like DJ Clue style in Israel. It was a collection of other artists, but it's not my solo album, so I don't count it. I had an album called Alive in Hebrew, and my second Hebrew album. Then I had an album called Shalom Haters, which was like peak political height. Then I had an album after Shalom Haters. It was Babel Aziz. And then Ultimate. So 6 solo projects.
Nice.
Then I released officially 2 compilations of Hebrew and Jewish rappers from all over the world. Those 2, they're on all the platforms.
Nice.
And I had another 2 albums that were released under my label because I had a few artists signed to me.
Nice.
One is like a Yemenite reggae kind of ethnic pop thing, really cool.
Okay.
And another one was like a hip hop, like underground compilation. So as Shy 360, 6 albums, as Shy 360, the producer as well, you have like 4 more projects.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and quite a few singles.
Yeah. So again, earlier on, you showed me your wall. So you have to again share the wall with us, man. Share the wall. You know. This
is the
nice
early work. Again, part of the crew. This is not my solo project. This is part of kind of the movement that we had in Israel. A group of artists that really wanted to push the culture forward. I had also a radio show called The Lab, and we would have 2 hours a week talking about hip hop, and I was like the hip hop historian at the time,
Nice,
so
nice.
So this was like a big part of my journey. Being a DJ also, like I was DJing in clubs just to pay the bills.
I remember that you told me that.
So a bunch of things always, and like I haven't released something in a while. I did in 2018, 2019. I did a Freestyle Friday segment.
When are you coming back with the Freestyle Fridays, man? I would wake up and it's like, okay, it's Friday, and I would just listen to every Freestyle Friday. You gotta bring it back, bro. I
appreciate that. Yeah, that was like. I was like, oh, you know what? Let me drop something, and it was an anticipation to the album to build, kind of a foundation and exposure, and it really took off. People would write me like, hey, your freestyle's late. Like sometimes, and once I did it from the airport, I was traveling. I did it in the airport live, like a cappella. My wife was like, oh my God, seriously? Like you gotta get, so it's 52. Every single week a different verse. It's not from the top of the dome, but just like freestyle, and like it was good in English, French, Hebrew. It was a lot of fun. So now I'm like, I have I get these spurts of like creative, like a muse, you know, that sometimes happen. And I really enjoy, you know, just getting back to hip hop. I took a long break. I was, you know, I was knee deep in the music industry. I was signed to a major label for a while. And then I started my own label, and I came to learn that I don't like the music business.
The industry.
I don't like it. I just wanted to rap. You know, still till this day, you remember me and you driving in the car, and I would freestyle for 4 hours. I just want to do that. Like, I just love that. You know, I didn't like all the rest. I didn't like dealing with lawyers every week. I didn't like, you know, oh, can this guy come and rap? And oh yeah, call my agent. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like any of that. And I just, you know, I left maybe with like a bittersweet taste, but I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I love being independent. I you know, also signed to a major label at the time. I didn't own my masters. Today I own all of my masters.
Exactly.
So I have a catalog, and I have royalties, and I can give that to my next generation as well. So that's awesome. There's a lot of, it's very important in that kind of, you know, and at some point I even lost creative control because you're so deep in it. And my second album was like, oh, we did a song for the radio. We got to, because I had some radio hits. I had #1 Billboard songs. I did. But it wasn't planned. But in the second album, in my second Hebrew album, was like, the label was like, no, we need, and then you're trying to make a song for the radio. And that there's no, that sucks. That sucks. And I went through that. I was in it. I was, you know, and I can't say that at the time I saw it, because I was so, you're in something, you don't take you don't stop and think about, okay, what am I doing? What does all this mean? And then at some point you're like, you know what? I love hip hop. I just want to rap, and I want to do other things. I want to do other things. This is when I left completely. I left. I didn't renew my contract. I left the label. And I went back to school, actually. I went back to school to try and rediscover, like, okay, what do I really want to do here? So that was a blessing. And then it took me a while. So it took me, you know, in 10 years, for 5 years, I didn't do anything. I didn't make any music at all. I didn't feel like it. I lost. Yeah.
The industry, man, will leave you that bitter taste, that bitterness.
Yeah, it's terrible. How many artists, like really great artists, that just
I know.
fell through because of that. The only reason, really dope, really talented people. Yeah.
Damn. So are we should we be expecting anything new from you from the next years? Or are you? I know you're always working on something. I know Shai's a workaholic. You're always working on something. So what you got? What you got under the rug?
I got probably a single in 2022.
Nice.
With a reggae, like a really dope reggae hook.
Nice.
Super militant, hard strings, incredibly powerful drums.
Okay, I can't wait. Well. So first of all, when that drops, you have to let me know, you know, so that again, like we have to cover this, you know, like we have to cover this in some way.
100%.
So Mr. Shea, I think we've actually covered pretty much everything, you know, and it was an honor, you know, to have you with us and to talk about Linguistiks, a song that is so dear to me personally, that is able to fit in that little time capsule that we're making of 1,000 songs. And again, not to be biased, you are my friend, yes, but I also truly believe that, first of all, you're one of the best freestylers ever that I've seen with my own eyes. Period. Some people can say some shit I heard. Another person told me. But I saw. I was right there in the passenger seat. Driving and spitting at the same time, you know, to whatever, you know. And those one thing though that I miss, like, you remember in our group of friends, and I always say that to my wife, I was like, Shai was the only guy that was able to follow me in the spontaneous side of my life.
Yeah.
Yo, qu'est-ce que tu fais? Yo, on va à New York.
On va à New York.
On va à New York. So we just go to New York. Go get some CDs. Go get some gear.
So good.
Drive back.
So, I know. But that's completely, that's reciprocal because nobody else was that spontaneous. Like, so for me, that was great to have this kind of like someone who can ride and be like, why not?
Okay. I remember it's like, okay, I'm finishing work at 11.
New York. Remember also Toronto.
That was crazy.
Is like, hey, Caravana's happening this weekend in Toronto. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's just fucking
we have nowhere to sleep. We'll figure it out. Let's go.
Figure it out.
Let's go. So, man, it was again like I still have this great picture of me, you, Dave, Zena. Remember Zena, the Indian girl with her boyfriend? Yeah. And we're at Taco Bell.
Yes.
We're at Taco Bell, just before the Caravana.
Oh my God!
We're just kicking it.
I cannot eat that stuff today at my age.
Are you crazy, man?
But at
That's
the time,
not even food.
everything went. It was crazy. Oh man, you're taking me back. I really appreciate that you took the time also to do this, man. It means a lot.
Dude. Respect, Yeah. I ain't got nothing but love for Mr. Shy 360 out there,
Same here, bro.
All right, my man. So that's pretty much it, party people. So thanks for sharing this moment together. Subscribe, like, share, and party people, support 40 years of hip hop by buying us a coffee so that we can continue dropping this amazing weekly podcast. This is your host with the most, Mr. Ron, wishing you happy Honolulu. Peace. And we out. All right, Mr. Shy.
This was fun, bro.
It was amazing, man. Anyways, we next week we have to do dinner. I'm serious about this. I'll track you down. We're going to that.
It's on. Jeudi, we're doing it.
C'est chill. C'est chill, bro. All right, my man.
Soon, man.
Peace.